Ladies and gentlemen, so I hope to keep this one short, sweet, straight to the point. This is an AMC price prediction video for this week. Now, I do not have a crystal ball. I'm not a fortune teller. I'm not your cousin, not your grandpa, not your uncle, not your mama, not nobody else, and I don't know what AMC is ultimately going to do. Now, how I do this is based off of probabilities, based on economic data coming out, based on how AMC typically performs during this same time period, based on what's happening in the current environment with AMC. And this current environment is a tricky one. Now, I know a couple of things and a couple of things I do know and a couple of things I don't know. So we're going to get into it. Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel and source your comments, questions, or concerns down below in the comment section. I want to hear all of your questions and concerns down there in the comment section. So first things first, guys, as we typically start off these videos, I just want to talk briefly about what's going on. And I've said this twice now. This will be the third time that I've said this. And I hope by now everyone has heard this from at least one video of mine, right? If you haven't seen the last 3 videos, given what's going on with AMC, well, maybe you just shouldn't be in this trade anyways, because if there's anyone that'll keep you up to date and informed, it is yours truly. Now, this is what everyone needs to know. It's not a foregone conclusion AMC will raise capital at all. AMC has the possibility they don't even sell any stock. Now, the point in which they did this, and are going to do this reverse split, is to raise capital. Now, it's not determined if AMC is going to sell all of the stock they possibly can and nuke the stock the second they have the chance. That's possible. Hell, it probably wouldn't surprise us at this point. Is that the most likely? On a statistical probability scale, is that the most likely? No, it's not. The most likely is probably no dilution for a little while. Because you're coming off of a stock that has fallen, and that just doesn't make sense, right? You don't want to beat a dead horse. Nobody gets credit for that. If Adam Aaron and AMC are thinking quite logically, and hopefully they see this video, and hopefully you point them in the direction to watch this video. Go share it with Adam Aaron. Send this video to him. Maybe he can comment on it. Maybe he makes a Twitter post on it. That would be wonderful. We want some bit of clarity, because a lot of people are under the assumption that AMC is going to raise billions of dollars of capital the second they can, dilute the stock by hundreds of percents. And I think that personally is a flawed narrative, that's not going to happen. That maybe a little dilution might come, maybe 5% of the float. AMC could raise around $100 million by issuing 5% of the float. That in theory is not a big deal. And actually, well, every time AMC has raised capital in the past, the stock has actually rallied. That's because you crush the short thesis. Like at this point, the short interest of free float being at 27.5% has no business being there, because ultimately this arbitrage trade is over with at this point. It's just over. It's all priced in. The judge made her ruling. It's done. Okay, now once the reverse split happens, you can, in theory, fall after that, and that does happen a lot of the time, but this arbitrage trade is over. So a lot of hedge funds and institutions probably going to have the same idea to cover on some of those short positions. So I think at this point, the odds are heavily tilted towards a move higher from here than a move lower from here. Now, obviously, a move lower can happen, and it's not like there's a 0% chance of that, but the odds are higher for an upside move. That's should be pretty well known at this point. That shouldn't be new information after seeing a 25% drop on Friday. Now, Adam Aaron has not commented on this situation, and I would love to hear a little bit of clarity on what is AMC's plan going ahead. I think we're deserved that at the very least. Do they plan to sell 5%? Well, okay, I would rather know that information now. Or are they planning to nuke the stock? Just tell us now. Obviously, for legal reasons, they probably can't come out and say that, but he could say something along the lines that we don't plan to dilute until this time period, or we don't plan to dilute more than 10% of the float until 2024, or something along those lines. And that could be quite bullish, because ultimately, if you're shorting AMC this entire time, for damn near 2 years now, yeah, short sellers have been massively upset and disappointed that AMC has not went bankrupt by now, when it probably should have a long time ago. But the overarching thesis was, we'll ride this momentum wave down wherever this thing goes. They were obviously thinking it was going down, and hindsight is 2020, and the stock fell, right? But they were saying, hey, if we did get squeezed, as long as it wasn't too bad, then we can just hold our positions until the stock and the company ultimately go bankrupt and get delisted. So we could just naked short the stock, do whatever illegal shit we wanted, as long as we wanted, because ultimately it's going to go bankrupt in the end anyways, and then we will never have to deliver on any of our obligations because the stock will be bankrupt and delisted. That was the overarching thesis for 2 years now. That thesis is over. At the bare minimum, AMC is not going bankrupt anymore. I think that's obvious. Now, if AMC's share price can remain high and Adam Aron can help induce to some degree a short squeeze or enthusiasm for AMC, since AMC is now profitable, I mean, that's going to be in AMC's best interest as well, and not the best interest of the shorts, because AMC's ability to raise up to 530 million shares after they do a 1-for-10 reverse stock split, that should, in theory, send the outstanding share count down to about 50 million. They could raise about 470 million shares, or they could sell 470 million shares, around there, if my math is correct. Now, don't credit me. I didn't do well in math in school. I'm semi good at math because I've been in the markets for the last 5 years. Okay, so maybe you want to fact check that. But either way, it doesn't even change the point that they don't have to raise all of these shares instantly. It's very much encouraged you do not do that as a company, because you don't want to ultimately nuke the price of the stock. And Adam Aron does own a lot of AMC stock, so I think that's in his best interest as well. Maybe just sell on the rally, sure, that does make some sense. But I think it's way blown out of context to what's actually going to happen. Now, I think that is a possibility that you could get an upside move based on that, because if everyone's expecting a massive dilution wave coming, and that dilution wave does not come because maybe now AMC is profitable and they don't have to dilute as much as maybe they thought, that's very good news. This just gives AMC the optionality to raise capital if they want to. That's important to know. And that could actually not be priced into AMC. It could be priced in that we're going to see a lot of dilution. So if we don't get that, that's going to be a positive upset for the short sellers. Again, short thesis is over. This trade is over as far as the shorts. In theory, you should see the shorts covering coming on Monday. Now, is that going to happen? Probably not. Probably not. If we do see any kind of shorts covering, like I said in the last video, it's probably going to be a lot less of that naked shorting, a lot less of that manipulative kind of trading happening with AMC, since the trade is ultimately over and there's no chance AMC is going bankrupt unless, I mean, the government shut down movie theaters, and then I mean, the government can do whatever they want, so maybe that's not a bad theory. But nonetheless, I mean, hopefully you get the point. It's not going to happen. The trade is over. Now, let's take a look at the Ortex data. Let's take a look at the technicals, and then we'll go ahead and get into the probable outcomes of this week. So, short score sitting at 93, $707 million worth of short positions currently in AMC stock. The highest short interest that you have seen in this cycle so far for years now with AMC. Keep that in mind, highest short interest you've ever seen. 27.5%. Free float out on loan 38.41%, shares on the loan 198.3 million, days to cover 8.4, 253.22% cost borrow fees, trailing 3-month average, 81.99% utilization as well. I think a lot of that's getting picked up by Ortex, because if you take a look at the actual live short interest numbers, Interactive Brokers had 1 share available with 243.5% costs to borrow fees. So that's another main story of this as well. It's just highly discouraged at this point, I feel like, to stay in a short position. That the trade's basically over and the company's not going bankrupt to this degree, to 27.5% short interest when cost borrow fees are 200-300%. This is charged every single day. So let's round up to what the cost to borrow max is, cost to borrow average is, or even around the cost to borrow minimum. Let's say 365% cost to borrow fees. Well, there's 365 days in a year. So in theory, you're paying about 1% to be in this short position every single day. And I think that is roughly where the last 3-month average is. So if you're paying 1% a day, the stock just dropped 25 days, 25%. That's about 25 days that if you had shorted the stock within the last 25 days, you likely did okay, break even at the worst. Well, if you shorted this stock 3 months ago, yeah, you're still down in your positions based on the cost to borrow fees. So I think that's highly unadvantageous to still be short in AMC coming next week. Let's just call it that. AMC is still on the threshold securities list. As we mentioned in the last video, there's going to be a lot of FTDs that do come due starting Monday and then really the rest of this week, over 11 million every single day, peaking out on Tuesday with over 14 million FTDs. This is a running aggregate, so if some FTDs started to get covered, the next week's data that comes out, you will see FTDs start to fall. If not, then they definitely have not started to cover, but we can see AMC still concurrently on the threshold securities list, so that is a problem as well, or really highlights a problem nonetheless. So let's talk about the technicals and an ultimate price prediction. Now, keep in mind, AMC stock looked beautiful before Friday's drop. Now, Friday's drop put the stock at $3.92.5. The low for this cycle is $3.77. The prior low that we've seen was back here on April 4th at $3.88. And the latest low that we've seen was about $4 per share. Now, you're pretty close to $4 per share, right? You're trading about right here. So it's possible the stock does bounce and actually holds that $4 level as support. That is possible. That is a possibility that the stock does bounce. I want you guys to be open to that idea, as what I've previously mentioned in this video makes a whole lot of sense, or at least it should. Now, as far as where the stock could go on the downside, $3.75, I like that round number, slightly under this low that we've seen in January of 2023, makes a lot of sense to me. Now, is it possible you could drop to $3.50? Sure. $3.50, I would put at about a 10% or less probability. Probably around 5% of probability. I think around $3.75 per share is probably a 30% probability, maybe 35% probability. I think the stock actually bouncing to $4 per share and holding that as support, which it's going to be a massive looking drop here on the charts. I think that is probably a 50-60% probability at the bare minimum. I think there's a greater chance than not you'll hold support around $4 per share, and that you do get some form of bounce in early to late day trading on Monday. Now, by the end of this week, I think there's an over 60% chance, around 65% chance, the stock is above $4 per share. Now, I don't know how high. I think there's probably a less than 20% chance the stock is above $4.50 by the end of this week. You're probably going to stay in this range in between $4 and $4.50 per share. My opinion, I would say that's probably a 75% probability. There's probably a 30% probability, really call it 20% probability, that you're around $3.80 to end this week, or $3.75. Then I think there's a less than 10% probability you're around $3.50 to end this week. So the greater probability of me says, or just maybe that's the wrong way to put it, we'll stick with that, is the stock's probably going to be in between $4 and $4.50 until we get more clarity, right? All it would really take is Adam Aaron coming out and saying, "Hey guys, we have gotten authorization to do a reverse split, and we're going to do that, and we have the choice to issue a lot of capital or a lot of shares and sell a lot of shares and raise a lot of capital, but we're not going to do that right away." Or give us some kind of guidelines like Adam Aaron has previously done. I think that can give us that bigger upside move, because I think it's pretty priced in that AMC is going to give us a lot of dilution right away and basically nuke the stock. So that's what I'm expecting for this week. Again, it's nothing crazy. Now, I think after the reverse split, that's where the stock could start to move around a lot more, because you're not going to have as many shares outstanding as well. And that's also going to be something that we will need to discuss down the line as well, guys. So hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and source your comments, questions, or concerns down below in the comment section. You guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.